Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Magic the Gathering Arena. Today is Friday, April 10th. We need to re-roll one of these. Let's do this one. And then let's see. The daily sale, I checked, I guess, a little too close to the time to stream. And there was nothing here. So, yeah. There's only like a few avatars left. It's still actually quite a lot, but that's kind of the only thing I would want to buy. Like, if a sleeve like this went on sale, I don't really feel a need to buy any more of those. If a pet went on sale, I have no interest whatsoever in buying those. I guess this pet's about to leave in favor of this one. Don't really think that there's anything else that would go on sale. If packs went on sale, that'd be an interesting idea, but it would also change the balance of saving up gold completely, because if they ever put a booster pack like this on sale, then people would save all their money until those packs went on sale to get a lot more. Gems will never go on sale either. And yeah, we can't buy the Ikra cards yet. So Friday Night Magic Historic Brawl here. I guess we have to do this. It's been a long time since I've tried a brawl. If I recall, even when it is. Let's see. So this week, not quite Commander at home, but close. Build a 60 card brawl deck with your standard and historic cards, then battle letters. Alright. So I only have one brawl deck anyways. And I've only played it once. And I didn't really like how brawl played, because it has this expertise level that you kind of need, where you kind of need to know what you're doing with these cards, this card in particular, having that always available for play, but with an increasing cost to play every time it dies and has to be replayed. And then all the other cards you can only have like one copy of. So I don't even know if that really changes too much. The only real difference between when I first built this deck, probably within the first month of playing Magic Arena, and frankly we are only at the third or fourth month at this point, and now is that I can play historic cards, and I have a few historic cards, so I kind of don't even feel like it's worth the effort to rebuild it. Brawl to me seems just so late game. It makes a lot of sense why the people who've been playing Magic for potentially decades like Brawl, because it's something that's way more complicated and way more skill based, whereas Standard, I guess, is more Standard in particular is probably where the dum-dums like me should be playing, as it were, because it can be very simplistic and simple here. Draw a card. Number of knights you control. Well, this would be a knight. Do I want to draw a card? I don't know if I really even want to do that. What does this guy even do? I don't even remember. I basically played one game of Brawl. Target you control gains death, touch, and lifelink. If you sacrifice a vampire, you soar and deals 3 damage to any target, and you gain 3 life. You may put a vampire creature card from your hand into the battlefield. So, I don't find those even particularly useful cards. Now, Nicol Bolas was played against me, and Nicol Bolas actually does seem like it might be the Planeswalker to play. So that is something I want to kind of consider. Let's see. Draw a card and lose 1 life. I can play that for 1 mana. I can just go ahead and attack here. I guess you need 2 victories here, so we may have to do a deck rebuild. Come to think of it, because if I am just gonna spend an hour trying to get this to work, that would be silly. We definitely don't have a lot of new news, and I really have no reason to believe that we will have a lot of new news. Let's see. I finished my rewatch of the Japanese drama Re::Mind. I'd forgotten really the ending of that, which really does kind of go to show that you should watch it probably once and then immediately watch it a second time to catch all the twists and turns around it. I found out both the original Twilight Zone series and
I am Scala's Vengeance, and I'm coming for you.
The original Star Trek series is available on Netflix, and now would be a great time for people to watch that. Although
you were lucky to get with my aim and their claws, you're done.
In all fairness, I own the Twilight Zone series on Blu-ray, and I think it still looks way, way better on Blu-ray than it does on the Netflix streaming service, which becomes a factor certainly when you're watching an old black and white film series. Do I want to kill this guy? Yeah, I think I can do this. And then he'll have to block it. And then he'll have to die, and then I'll clean this up nicely for me. So, yeah. I also have Star Trek the original series on Blu-ray. And going back and just watching the first episode of Twilight Zone, just episode 1, season 1, it was kind of surprising how I wasn't able to immediately place the episode. I actually went through 2 guesses and probably half of the episode before I actually recalled which one it was. Because, you know, Twilight Zone does have a lot of episodes amongst its 4 seasons, and certainly a lot of the sets and settings and look very similar. Let's see what else. I got some videos uploaded. I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly what I want to play next, because there is a point here where I would like to play the Telltale Batman game series, but I just played a point and click adventure, and if there's only one series that's going to be on my channel, that seems a little bit of a mistake to do what is effectively a new generation point and click adventure game right after doing a very old generation point and click adventure. But frankly, that's just got to be a problem that I'm going to run into, because I'm only pre-recording one episode, one series at a time now. I think I'm fairly confident now I'm on the mend as far as my back goes. So I think I probably can, if I can just now get over the standard level of slacking and procrastination. I think I'm ready to start putting in some hardcore hours and doing some pre-recording of a lot of shows, or more shows than normal. Well, I'm gonna let this 8 actually attack me. Let's see. Okay, so we have sacrifice a vampire, deal 3 damage to any target, death, touch, and lifelink, and +1/+1 if it's a vampire. Is this a vampire card? As a vampire. That's not a vampire. That's a vampire.
This is but a taste of my power.
So I'm gonna go ahead and attack with this and this. I hope he blocks. Stupidly, he does. Alright, and then we place this. And that should make us sacrifice a creature or planeswalker. Which should just decimate his game. Yep. So that's 1 victory. And that's kind of a problem. I watched a pro, I kind of fast forwarded through a pro doing the cube system, and yeah, he definitely was given different cards. You seem to just get a random selection of cards, and he seemed to just really build the best thing he could build with those different cards, which he was, I believe, describing as a 4-color monster deck. And yeah, he was able to win with only 1 loss all the way. So yeah, if you know the cards and you're good at Magic and you can really do a cube, I would have recommended doing that cube gameplay. But it really should not have been promoted on the basic games, and this is a weird situation that they're in, because anything they want to promote, they want to show in the selected promoted game modes instead of the game modes that they don't care about. Let's see. And I can make a 2/2, or I can wait 1 more turn. And really, that cube was definitely not for newbies. In the same way, I don't feel like these are... let's see. I don't feel like these are the kinds of things that should be... promoted to new players either. Could kill a 1/1. That would be incredibly dumb. Some spammer, bot, or whatever, put a comment on my previous stream it said 21 seconds big boobs, and I went and looked, and I'm like, oh, did I show some kind of anime boob thing in the first 21 seconds of a stream? And of course not, I hadn't even started then. But yeah, it definitely caught my attention as just like, that's a weird thing to put as a spam comment. I don't know if this is a poison the well type move where they're trying to specifically have like just terrible comments on all content in a way of, in the hopes that their terrible content gets promoted higher. But yeah, it was caught very quickly and deleted, or the person that posted it deleted it. But it really wouldn't have been an inaccurate argument. Like, some of these games definitely do have big boobs, and usually it is an anime, Japanese game of some sort, or Asian game of some sort. Can't really deny the truth there. Let's see. Do I have something we want to get rid of? I think so, yeah, let's get rid of this guy. And then reach and trample. Yep, all the Western games. I heard a new term for it. They're calling it Cal art, as in California art, in reference to animation styles for shows usually for kids, like the new Thundercats Roar, or She-Ra, or even Stevens, which I wouldn't be surprised if all of those I just named are fairly from the exact same animation groups, types of people, if not the exact same animation studios. Yeah, I'm trying to even think a big-chested female character from a Western game. Who's the last one we could even think of? Is it Blood Rain? Sort of Tomb Raider in the old Tomb Raider games. But nobody's ridiculously large-chested, certainly, but even moderately large cup size is very, very low number of games I can think of. And you can't really call a Mario game a Western game by any definition, but it is a little surprising that Princess Peach and Princess Daisy are effectively the exact same body shape and type. Alright. Don't want to attack here? I guess I do. It's kind of no reason not to. Alright, so I'm basically rambling. I have nothing else. My accountability section is basically nothing. It's just my sleep schedule's been really weird, where I'm streaming early on, and then and because I'm streaming early in the morning, then I usually go to sleep and then wake up at like 5 in the evening, and then usually around 5 in the evening there's enough TV and stuff to distract me until it's close enough to the end of the day where I'm thinking to myself that I should go to sleep. And of course I don't go to sleep until 7 in the morning later, so I go from probably around 10 o'clock in the evening to 7 in the morning just thinking about and trying to sleep and failing miserably at it. That's the problem with insomnia, certainly. I could activate that and buff up this guy. Do we have any night cards? Not right now, so we should just play this. I don't really feel like my accountability section, like there's no reason not to do it because it really is just like talking about what's going on in my life, but it really has failed completely to actually hold me to any kind of accountability. And I don't know if I actually wanted that ever or if anything ever would. But yeah. At a certain level,
Dragons when I was truly fighting ants.
this is not the Nicol Bolas card I was talking about.
I know
There's a
what
different
must
one.
be done.
That if you spend 8 loyalty points, all players who don't have a legendary lose the game. Although this one has like 12 loyalty points where exiles all but the bottom card of the target player's deck, which basically makes you lose the game in 2 turns. And this expanded artwork actually covers up something, so yeah, that would be hard to reprint. Okay. See how this works.
With an ancient vampire lord. Foolish.
Creature gets sacrifice a vampire, do 3 damage from your hand into the battlefield. Alright.
My bloodline flows through you.
Fly that one. And this one has Death Touch. Could do this one too. This is protection from multicolored. That's not really going to help me much. Oh, I also played a PC building simulator game on my cell phone, and I installed Gwent and didn't actually play it. I may get around next week or this weekend to playing Gwent and seeing if it actually has any actual value on playing on an Android phone.
I always have an answer.
The problem with the cell phone PC building simulator, which is not something I've considered about the Steam PC building simulator, of which I assume these are different companies, the cell phone version just ripping off the Steam version. But the cell phone one I played they gave you jobs to either upgrade or build computers, and then they asked for parts that you couldn't get without watching ads. And they often seem to randomly generate benchmarks that you're supposed to be working towards, which is not something I've ever even thought of or heard of. Like, I would definitely not run a business promising any kind of benchmark statistics, like I'm gonna get you over a certain score or such, because things could change, and then by the time they get a computer in, say, a hot room in their house, or a room that has like power problems, that there's just things that could be wrong there, and that's really not the way I would make promises. Like, if they want me to put in a specific video card or a CPU, things like that's something you can say, yeah, I can do that, and here's the price I'll charge for that. But I can't guarantee, once all these components are put together, that I'm going to give you any kind of level of performance, let alone. Also, it's very weirdly designed that you're running this computer store, in the sense that you're letting them effectively tell you how much they're going to pay you and demand what they want done. It doesn't work like that in any business, frankly. You tell them what you've got to offer. You guide people. You don't usually just let them come in and say, I need this, this, and this, because whatever they're asking for, you probably can't 100% accommodate. And you definitely don't let them demand the price on top of that. So the game seemed to really just screw you with some random generated numbers that, like, you could not really fix, because, like, the second mission I had in this game, they wanted me to put in a 500 watt, at least a 500 watt power supply. Easy enough, particularly when you're just dragging and dropping things. They started with a 450. Then they wanted me to get a CPU score higher than what they possibly could have ever had. And apparently I was supposed to reject that job, and that seems to be like, maybe that's the core part of the concept that I didn't really wasn't grasping. Like, I guess that might have been the thing.
I bestow a mighty curse.
This guy has more than enough. This guy has more than enough to defeat me. I kind of want to see him do it, though. Yeah, so it seemed like I was supposed to reject that job, but I tried it, and upgrading the power supply is nothing. But then they want me to put a newer CPU in it. My only thought, without watching ads, which my ad blockers were just not allowing at all, I can turn off my Wi-Fi and go through my cell data to get around my own Wi-Fi installed ad blockers, but you shouldn't have to do that to play the game. So then the only other way around that, I imagine, is that I was supposed to change the entire motherboard and just effectively start a entire new computer build there.
I am through with this world.
Which that's really not something I would have ever wanted to do. Certainly, is if I was building or upgrading a PC, is to just say, I'm gonna take all of the components of your old PC, remove the motherboard, replace that, remove the CPU, replace that, but not touch the RAM, and not touch the video card, and not really do anything with the case. Like, some of the case is fine. You can reuse a case perfectly fine, and power supplies can be fine. Although generally, if it is just an upgrade and everything's working, that's cool. Otherwise, if there was something wrong, that's a problem. Then there were some other side jobs after I realized I could not finish the first job, where it's just like they want you to clean it using CC Cleaner, which is not something that I recommend anymore. As an app, I don't think you really need to clean your PCs when you've got Windows 10. And then they want you to install antivirus, Avast antivirus, as the one and only option for antivirus scanning, which I wouldn't recommend that either. And then one of the quest was actually to one of the quests was actually to, let's see, Put someone in your command zone or graveyard. I guess you put him in your command zone. That's not what I meant to do, though. I meant to use his ability. Man, that is just so ridiculous. So he did do his trick, but I guess I could attack here. There really needs to be a balancing around this, that if you kill this guy you get all your cards back from exile, or as long as this guy's on the field nobody can lose from running out of cards. Even at 12 loyalty points, that still is pretty easy to do. Also, if you have a proliferate, that would have increased his loyalty points, so you could play something like this and proliferate quite a bit. There definitely was a time where I wanted to run a computer shop and just build computers all day. There definitely was a time. I guess I can't even really guarantee that now I would enjoy building computers so much, but they're fun. They're kind of more fun in theory, and I think that's a lot where the PC building Reddits have sprouted up and turned out to be really nice, is that in theory, looking at the specs and building something is great. In practice, there's a bunch of caveats around that. You can run into dud hardware, you can run into troubles, you run into a really slow install, even if you're installing something like a Linux, which you really couldn't give to end users particularly well without people complaining. There's just a lot of drivers, setup, install things. Little things can be different. Different mounting brackets, different ways of putting things in different cases. And there's such a little desire for people to have home PCs that they definitely lied to my generation in school and said that there were going to be jobs where people were building computers and assembling computers. And while those jobs do exist in China for slave wages, they definitely do not exist anywhere else. And so there's nothing but a hobby, frankly, that exists as far as building computers. And then you don't really want to build computers for any friends or family, because then you take ownership of it, and then your idiot family or idiot friends that don't know how to maintain a computer come back 5 years later and they say that, hey, this computer you built isn't working, it's all your fault. Or they come back a week later and say, hey, it's not working, do more work on it. And so, yeah, most people don't have home PCs. Cell phones really signaled the end of that. But even before then, most people were buying laptops or MacBooks or even Mac PCs, which had such little... They're all pre-built by Macintoshes then. And then when you start to get into the realm of actually being an IT person, you are generally then contracted with somebody like Dell that makes pre-built products, and you're using something along that lines where you're not actually opening up the computers ever because you don't have time for that. You're too busy dealing with networking things, high level things, or just super specific things for a specific Do I have a vampire card? Vampire. Vampire. Vampire.
Our fiends thirst for life.
So yeah, I uninstalled that cell phone game, and yeah, every now and then, I will have to build a new computer eventually, but with, who knows with the economy these days, what'll happen. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point I just have a computer completely break on me, and then that's just a great excuse to stop making YouTube videos. Although that would be also insane because I have over 3,000 Steam games, so even if I was going to stop making YouTube videos, I still need a PC that can play these games. Otherwise I've just wasted and invested way too much into that. The train game, I don't remember the name of it. The kids version of the train game where you draw cards, and when you match 3 like orange cards, you can claim a 3-pip orange road. Yeah. Like, I really wish I could remember the name of that game. Ticket to Ride, that's the name of it. Ticket to Ride, My First Journey, was free. I got that. It's kind of a DLC, just different version of the Ticket to Ride game for kids. I might show that off at some point. It would be really bad to try to bring back the Thanksgiving Day, like, these are all the games I got for free this year time slot that I was trying to do the first couple years I ran my channel. Like, nobody's gonna be happy around Thanksgiving to hear people being thankful for anything. I'm fairly certain about that. Okay. Do I want to play this and then do something here? Or do I want to do this? Next. This one was 2, this one's 2, this one's 3, this one's 1. So I'm hoping he'll block with all of these, and that'll kill everything. But we'll see. I suppose if there ever was going to be a time, as I'm chewing on ice, if there ever was going to be a time where building PCs as a career might be a successful thing, now would probably be one of the best opportunities, because I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of teachers out there that realize that we need stronger streaming platforms. Apparently you can't stream on YouTube from an iPhone if you don't have 1,000 subscribers. I don't know when that became a rule. You can still like upload videos and such, but you just can't live stream. And maybe that's true for some other things. Let's just go ahead and attack here. If I knew what I was doing, I would consider rebuilding my Brawl deck. But otherwise, I'm just gonna beat my. But since I don't, I'm just gonna beat my head against the wall. And on top of teachers and educators needing a potentially needing better PCs to stream, kids probably would need better PCs if they're gonna do home education. I also heard an interesting argument comparing education between YouTube and Zoom. There's definitely some different offerings. Ignoring the many problems and security breach stories on Zoom, Zoom is more like Skype. It does allow the teacher to actually look at these students and see that they're there and present, instead of having to just take it basically on faith that the kids had watched a YouTube video. Because particularly if you're following the Child Online Privacy Protection Act regulations on YouTube, you can't even get them to comment or do anything like that, because comments will be disabled on your video and your channel by default if you're an educator and making content for kids under 13. I guess that stops being a problem if you're not teaching kids under 13. And that the Child Online Privacy Protection Act could literally shift the focus of a educational program. If there was this new generation of YouTube educators, you would potentially see them moving from early education and younger kids to older kids, just to avoid COPA, potentially even to monetize their videos. On the other hand, the problems with Zoom are that the teacher can look at the students and see in their background, and I could easily see students like not feeling comfortable and not being happy about teachers looking through webcams and seeing people's houses, people's kitchens, studies, bedrooms, seeing what's going on. If you've got younger siblings running around, that could be a problem. It's just a recipe for disaster in the first place to have kids there. Plus, with Zoom, everybody has to mute their mics in the first 5 minutes, from what I hear. So there's just a lot more setup there where kids are very familiar with YouTube. They don't have to do any of that. That they can be shirtless in their underwear in their kitchen, covered in dirt, and watching a YouTube video, where in Zoom all of a sudden child protection might be visiting your house. So yeah, I think what they will eventually fall down to, if I was just to guess, is a system of assigning homework through YouTube-like videos and potentially putting those YouTube videos on their own websites that have supplemental text, dialogue, checkboxes, forms, and things like that. Let's see. it might even come down to the point for a lot of educators where they just put links to supplemental materials in their in their description of their YouTube videos, and if the students don't really want to watch the videos, fine, they can just do the assignment and be done with it. On the other hand, there is also a benefit of doing a pre-recorded YouTube video and educating with that, and not having anyone disrupt the situation, whereas Zoom, at any point, basically any kid could disrupt it. And I don't know how in the world you do any kind of maintaining of classroom decorum or discipline there. Like, you can try to claim that you're going to give the kids some kind of behavior score, which could easily be abused, and if a teacher just didn't like a student, they could easily fail a kid for having disruptive behavior. But you can't give them detention. You could probably kick them from a Zoom classroom. That's probably about it. Like, the teacher might be able to mute a kid, but if he's waving his arms around or holding up cue cards, that ain't gonna stop much. Maybe you can black out and isolate a kid, but on the other hand, I imagine they haven't run into that too much, because I imagine a lot of kids, if they just don't want to be a part of the Zoom conferences, they probably just don't show up. And I don't know how you do too much enforcement of that either. This is all very new ground for everybody. And then I've heard complaints about some teachers saying that they're gonna do Zoom. They're doing Zoom classes at 8 in the morning for kind of no reason. Like, now would be the perfect time to shift over to a 10 in the morning minimum start of school. Like, there's no reason to have people maintaining that schedule. Particularly if you're assuming that the parents are still going to work, which is the minority, certainly, at this point. But there's no reason to have the parents wake up the kids early. I guess maybe some kids would just sleep through everything and not ever wake up, and that might be another issue. Certainly, there's certainly a lot of us. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see a lot more pre-recorded content and a lot less Skype style group meeting things. If you look at it historically, the online education that has been added to, like, college level classes, almost never was that something like Skype or Zoom where everybody gets together and talks. It has always been like pre-recorded presentations, and most teachers do generally just want to get up on their pulpit, their actual pulpits often, and just preach to a class, whether they're paying attention or not. So I wouldn't be surprised if there really was a teacher desire to have pre-recorded footage. Of course, that might put the teachers out of business. How many times do you have to have a science teacher say the exact same thing over and over again until you get the perfect take that you can just continue to repeat? That, again, is kind of the problem with colleges, why the classrooms in some lecture halls in colleges can be hold 300 or 400 people. Probably not that many, probably 100 people. But yeah, they can just have the seniors act as advisors or assistants to the teachers to answer any individual questions that anybody would actually have. Alright, let's start talking about video games, even though there really isn't that much. We have a game on Steam here called Group Project Simulator, which to me looks kind of like it's just a collection of kind of simplistic mini games wrapped around a visual novel. Never really liked group projects, and frankly, in all fairness, I was probably the one bringing down everybody else's grade if I was in a group project, because I was definitely not one to really do homework in the first place. So yeah, this is a free game and it looks very uninteresting to me. Like I specifically got away with a criminally large amount of not doing homework, and I honestly think the teachers just wanted to get rid of me. So the old joke is I got out of college, I got out of high school on a plea bargain or something like that. But yeah.
I bestow a mighty curse.
Death Touch and Lifelink. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article. Magic Scrolls Tactics is now available for the PS4 in Japan. Side-scrolling tactical RPG adds another platform. This looks like an uninteresting game. Now, I watched the Digital Foundry video talking about the new PlayStation 5 controllers that have been shown off, and they talked about how it was very reminiscent visually and aesthetically to the Vita, which is a little weird considering how they really abandoned the Vita and don't have a actual successor for it. And I can't really see how PlayStation would shift or sell the PlayStation 5 as the new Vita, the Vita 2. That doesn't really make any sense. So I assume they're probably just trying to they probably are just trying to have the visual aesthetic there. Digital Foundry also mentioned that the light bar for the PlayStation Eye is missing, so that wasn't an incorrect criticism as far as I'm concerned that I made. The Digital Foundry assumes that's because if you are going to play VR in PlayStation 5, you're probably going to have special PlayStation VR controllers, which is believable. And they didn't show a back image of the controller, so we don't know if there's any kind of like flappy paddles in the back around the grips, but one assumes if they're not showing it, it doesn't exist. Is there anything I can do here to win? See, this is how you know you have a terrible brawl. If I had a decent brawl, I would have some kind of strategy. Something that would tell me how to actually win here. I wanted to mention this. Major Nelson mentioned that there's a bundle of 2 games, 2 point-and-click adventure games that are now available on Xbox One. It's called the Comrade Rabbit bundle. See a rabbit here. I don't see a rabbit here, but I see maybe some comrades over here. Point and click adventure games, never heard of them, so they probably aren't super big or super popular, but I might do some research and see if they came out on Steam at any point. Let's see, is there... Wait, we can do that. Can we do... Yeah, I don't see anything on Steam by that name. So, it could be that the two games are separate on Steam. And one is called My Brother Rabbit. Which is on Steam. Oh, these sound effects they're playing.
Our fiends thirst for life.
So here we have My Brother Rabbit. Rated very positively. It's on the wish list as a point and click. And then, let's see. What's the other game from this developer? I guess I could attack here. That's the guy. This is the guy that was making all the weird sound effects. And then I assume the other game here is Irony Curtain, which is also on the wish list. Rated very positively. So two separate games, which are only bundled differently on Steam, are available on Xbox One. That's a little weird, but not super surprising, I guess, that they would try and rebundle things. And I guess that's a great example of no, those weren't hidden gems that I had missed, which is a good indicator. It's a good thing to see, because the last thing I want to ever do is find out that there's, say, 1,000 extra games on Steam that are just rather old, and thus I've missed them. Speaking of games that aren't hidden gems, the game Prison Princess, I believe, is being played by a major YouTuber, and they're having to censor quite a lot. So yeah, that was a game that it really doesn't look like it's that good of a game, but it does kind of go to show that probably not worth owning or trying to cover on YouTube, because the puzzles seem to be incredibly simplistic. Sacrifice rats, gain control. Ooh. I'm gonna make a rat and then gain control. Let's see, sacrifice a vampire, deal 3 damage. I mean, all I can really do is put +1/+1 on the guy.
This is but a taste of my power.
This really is just like the worst commander card possible. Jeez, it's already been an hour. Already been an hour and we really haven't done anything. Well, geez, I might be able to win here. If I can just attack one more time and then play Bola Citadel. That's about it. Next, we have a game on Steam called Dark Hero Party. While it does seem to have a couple of interesting character animations, it seems like they can't actually draw eyes. And everybody's eyes are closed, except for in this one scene. Interesting. The rest of it looks like an RPG Maker game. Some of these little bits of trailers might look somewhat interesting, but not much. $13.49, English, Chinese, and Japanese. Take your pick whether you want to assume that it's a Chinese or Japanese game, but it is definitely not anything of any quality. If I can get I can take like control of this. I can potentially win. Next, we have a game on Steam called Virus Popper, which just looks like it's an asset flip, first person, stand in one place VR game. Shooting at things, I guess, is the general idea. Although, it does seem like you have to wash your hands. It's free to play, and it's English only. I don't know. I don't know if it's wise to encourage good sanitary actions and then put a VR headset on kids that are potentially going to then get pink eye or something from using the VR headset. There really is there's no good way you're gonna have a good experience there. Alright, well. Oh, you have to sacrifice 3 rats. Ooh, well, I am doomed. Do I have any vampire to sacrifice? No. So I've got to just like see if I can win this way, and the answer should be absolutely not. In fact, I should have been attacking way earlier. Let's see if we can just change the commander here without spending a lot of time. How far away were we? We would have needed 2 more cards on the field. This is a lot of work. It's a lot of work for 2 things, and I guess we've gotten some new cards somehow. So, commanders. That's probably not a bad commander card. there anything else we would really want to do? I don't know. Probably a lot. There's probably a lot of little adjustments I could make. But yeah, let's just leave it. Next we have a game on Steam called Mars Plan, which looks like an asset flip game where you are shooting at dinosaurs on Mars for some reason in VR. $3.59 discounted, English and Chinese. Now that certainly screams like a cheap Chinese game if I've ever seen one. And maybe that's pretty much all we're gonna get this Friday, is a bunch of cheap Chinese games. I wouldn't be surprised. Next we have a game that's a bunch of Asian characters and it's called Fantastic Kingdom. Looks like it's an RPG maker game. And they all look the same. I would say the art is kind of nicer looking here, but that's about it. $2 discounted, English, Chinese. Yeah. There's really nothing to say around a lot of that. Next we have a game on Steam called Pivo, which looks like it is a half flat 2D platformer and half 3D platformer, which means there might be a concept here. It seems a little devoid of enemies, but I see one. So there might be something here, or it might just be really boring. $7.99. English only. I'm going to put it on the fall list. We'll see what happens there. I guess we have to play that. And then play that. And then play that. Has this developer for Blue Cube made any other game? No, they haven't. So that doesn't give us any other bit of information. Next we have a game on Steam called Mini Railway, which looks like it's just a clone of several other subway simulators or subway designers. It doesn't look very visually polished. $2.99, English only. Open Critic has an article here. The Resident Evil Resistance roadmap has been released. I guess if you care about that, you could check out this article and look up that information. I don't think too many people are going to care about Resident Evil Resistance, so a roadmap saying when new content or changes is going to happen to it probably isn't that interesting otherwise. Next we have a game on Steam called Bombergeddon, which looks like it's probably a Russian troll low effort game. Seems to be a almost completely text strategy game, simulation game for $7.99 discounted, English only. Yep. Nothing interesting gameplay wise there. I suppose people could make the argument that the fact that I'm saying something is not interesting instead of trying to make something sound interesting is evidence of me being a bad news reporter or content creator in general. There possibly is an argument there. But then that is kind of the thing I hate about YouTube content creators in particular, is that they always put on a fake air of enthusiasm and energy, and that's just not going to be me ever. Let's see. Variety had this article that was retweeted by Susan Wojcicki. YouTube unlocks a batch of originals for free streaming, including all episodes of Zoe Grossefa's. Joey Grossefa's. I have no idea who that is. Escape the Night. My question would be, did they release Scare PewDiePie as season 1? And my guess is probably not. 4 seasons, whatever season is on YouTube, and then Step Up High Water, Impulse, Foursome, and an animated kid show, Shorewood. I assume these are like YouTube Red things that probably didn't succeed. MatPat's Game Lab. It was also skipped there. The Sidemen Show. Me and my grandma. Like, these names are terrible. These are really, really, really terrible names alone. I really don't feel like there's any major interest there, though, because let's face it, that YouTube Red content is not the content that people want on YouTube. They don't want YouTube picking winners and losers and funding the most successful YouTubers in a way that they become even more successful and get an unfair advantage. Susan Wojcicki also retweeted this guy teaching with YouTube 01 equipment. And you can see here in the screenshots they're pointing off, you can use your camera as a camera, or you can use your hugely expensive DSLR as a camera, and then use lav mics, like too. That's not a bad idea, just from the thumbnails. I was gonna see if I could sit through that video and see if there's any suggestions as far as equipment, but I imagine not really. People are just going to use whatever they have on hand, and that'll be that. Yeah, the huge danger here is that public schools will just shut down and not even open up next year before public schools decide to get with the times and say, all right, we're going to give every teacher a budget to buy recording things and social isolate, if we still are social isolating by next school year. Yeah, it really would be the wrong assumption to think that, like, the United States government, who was basically completely unprepared for COVID-19 in the same way that everybody else on the planet was unprepared for it, would somehow pull it through and fix their educational system and convert it from the current model into a modern home education system. If anything, it'll just be the one thing that finally allows school vouchers to happen, which will allow a lot of people to undereducate or not educate. I've heard this phrase of unschooling talked about, where homeschool kids are not even actually schooled at all. And apparently that's a known thing. Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called Hoop Lord, which is, from the looks of it, a VR basketball game. And I think I was talking about just a week ago that VR basketball oddly doesn't really exist. Although this is like a fantasy VR basketball game, which seems probably not what somebody who wants to play basketball in VR would want. $4.89 English full audio allegedly. Yeah. There probably is something to be said about, even if you were going to try and do basketball indoors, there's a lot of opportunities for indoor basketball gyms where you could still socially isolate if you're rich enough to rent it out, or you could have just a basketball and a hoop outside and still stay within that 6 foot distance of anyone else. And shooting a real basketball into a real hoop is still way better for the muscle memory than pretending like you're doing it in VR. There's no good way that you're going to be able to simulate that, not without very expensive equipment. Alright, let's do this. Let's see, next we have a game on Steam called Hinterhalt 3, which looks kind of like a slightly visually polished first-person shooter. It almost looks like an artistic style, where you're playing as like army men in a first-person shooter gameplay mechanic. It's early access, it's $3.74, English full audio and a bunch of other languages. I guess the question here is to look at these developers and see what else they've made. Hinterhalt 2 is mixed, Hinterhalt 1 is mixed, and 3 other games are positive. And I think that tells me enough. That pretty much tells me all I needed to know as far as whether that deserved to be on the follow list. And the answer is no, it didn't. If I can get enough things on the field, I might be able to get Bullet Citadel, but I'd also have to have a lot of land. So I don't know how this is going to play out. My assumption is it isn't. Just going to block this guy and then block this guy. Gamasutra has an article here. According to Blizzard, it's too early to know whether BlizzCon 2020 is feasible. I think the answer to that is pretty obvious. No. That will be cancelled, I'm sure, like everything else. This is an interesting article from TechRaptor. Nintendo has suspended Switch shipments to Japan. The US and EU are unaffected for now. Now, that's a little weird because the Japan as a country is just now starting to really start to think about the COVID-19 issue. So it kind of hit them a little bit later. There's a quote here: "We haven't been able to keep up with the supply. I've seen listings for Switches for $500. More systems are on the way," Nintendo has said. So they actually said a couple of things to try and I guess ease the fear that you may never get a Switch again, which is not a legitimate fear. I think there'll be plenty of them, unless things go so bad that we just lose all means of production of materials. Like all factories shut down in China for permanently, that could be a problem, but that would be about it. Honestly, from my perspective, it tends to me to seem, if Japanese aren't doing something for Japanese people, because they care 10 times more about satisfying the Japanese audience a Japanese company does, like Nintendo. If they're shutting down shipments to Japan, they're probably only a week away from shutting down shipments to the EU and everything else, because they would not want a scenario where a game comes out and it undersells in Japan, particularly if it's a Japanese game, and or sells better. They don't want to encourage reverse importation. They don't want to make the Japanese feel like they aren't the first and foremost concern in their mind. And if anything, that is one of the major factors where Sony has just completely dropped the ball, is that they have allowed a scenario to happen here. They've allowed a scenario here where the PlayStation and PlayStation games don't feel like they are first and foremost targeting Japanese developers and creators, and that has significantly hurt their relationship with the Japanese companies that make their games. Moving on, Game of Sutra has an article. Sony invests $400 million into the Chinese entertainment platform Billy. I did not intentionally pick that article next, or when even looking at it, but I mean, it really is just what I was talking about. Sony's investing in Chinese developers. That's a great way for Sony to alienate Japanese developers who, let's face it, the Japanese are hated and hate pretty much all other Asian countries for some justifiable reasons. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Dauntless Easter event gives players more free-to-play fun. Now, the other gacha game, the secondary gacha game that I'm trying to play, which really is not going anywhere fast, it just takes way too long. It is a game, unlike Destiny Child, that seems to be really designed around the idea of just having just wasting people's time more than actually having them do something that progresses the story or having more elements to it. There, I lost again. Are we getting the daily quest done? Are we making any progress with that? I'd imagine the answer is probably no. Alright, let's start to think about this. Just go ahead and take that in. Take that. Take that. Take that. Let's see. Yeah, if you hear a crinkling sound, I'll go ahead and point out and mention that that's a bag of ice that I'm using on my back/hip. So, yeah. It seems at this point to be something just I need to do to ensure that I'm not in major pain when I try to stand up at the end of a 2-hour to 3-hour streaming session. There we go, that's a good card. So yeah, I'm just moving that around and shifting it a little bit. There's literally no strategy here. I'm just throwing in cards that I think are kind of good cards. That's kind of all I'm doing is just trying to throw in cards that I think are somewhat good. And then I'll have to take out some things that I know aren't good, which will just double up this mono black deck. There we go. Honestly, it's probably wouldn't be a bad time to try to go to Draft Sim and try and just have a better deck that I could copy and paste and make a new brawl deck. But just gonna throw in some cards and toss out some cards and not try to spend too much time on it. And Bull said that probably isn't the right card for this. Alright. Can we take that guy out? And then didn't really mean to take that one out, but whatever. Can we put that there? Yes, we can. So we need like 20 cards removed. And let's start at the bottom here and get rid of the most expensive ones. That and that. And get rid of that because that's useless. And probably get rid of that because it's useless. Get rid of that, and that. And we'll just get rid of like the most expensive ones to start with. And then we'll see what else we want to do. Get rid of that one. Probably get rid of that. Let's start looking. We've got 6 more cards we want to get rid of. Get rid of that one. Get rid of that one. Get rid of that one. 3 more cards. Get rid of that one. Get rid of that one. Get rid of that one. There we go. So not like a major improvement there by any means, but yeah, probably some slight improvement there. Yeah, I just don't want to spend the time. I would just rather play for 2-3 hours, just hoping to get a quick disconnect and win that way, instead of spending the effort of trying to figure out the right brawl deck to build. And if I was really efficient, I would just, again, go find a copy and paste brawl deck, see if I can get something that is close to something I could understand. I probably shouldn't be playing black, since I end up playing black anyways all the time. I should be probably playing some kind of like aggro red deck if I was to guess. Anyways, TechRaptor had this article, Dauntless Easter event gives players more free-to-play things. I don't even know what Dauntless is, though, which probably tells me more. Apparently it's from their own website, and that's why I haven't seen it. And it looks like a JRPG if I was to guess. Whenever you pay life, put that many blood counters. Let's see. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article here. Sega Europe appoints Tim Heaton as the chief studio officer. I don't think that really means much for Sega, really. He used to work for Creative Assembly. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what Creative Assembly worked on or did, if anything of importance or relevance. TechRaptor has an article here. Find out what life was like in the Soviet Union For the People, the name of that game. I wish they put quotation marks around that. We got a little bit of a trailer here. Let's see if we can get an idea of what it looks like. It seems to be mostly a text-based strategy game, if I was to guess. I don't think too many people are gonna argue with the idea that life sucked under the Soviet Union control. So I don't know if you what experience you're really gonna get from that. Like it's more of an obsession, a story written because of obsession more than a story that is written because that setting tells an interesting tale. Like, we've already seen the Diary of Anne Frank and plenty of other stories based on real life events. I don't see a good reason to write new stories in those environments unless you've got something really interesting to say, which most video game writers don't. And I would argue that Ayn Rand's fictional writings based on her experience under communist rule under, I think, the Soviet Union, although maybe not. I don't know what country she was from. I think they're probably some of the best examples of where fiction can muddle an issue quite a bit. 2 or less. Okay.
You fight dirty.
This guy's indestructible. He's a character, I suppose. TechRaptor has an article here. Overwatch map pools are gone for good next week. I don't know what map pools mean. I guess you could get in a queue for maps if you want to play specific maps, or heroes if you want to play specific heroes, and they're just moving it all over to hero pools. But the image that's being shown here is showing a map with a bunch of water, so I wouldn't really think somebody too silly if they thought that they were removing all the water elements from all the Overwatch sections, all the pools of water in the maps, which I suppose
believe in you, friend.
there might be a reason you do that if performance was just really bad, but generally speaking, no, I don't think that's something you should do, or most game developers would do.
That was a good hit.
Let's see. TechRaptor has this article, Making Lovers Lets You Enjoy Wholesome Lewdness on Nutaku, the adult game site that I think most of the games you play directly from their site. You know, if you download them directly. You've got some anime girls that are still kind of in that moe sense style of animation, but they are drawing them with longer necks and trying to make them look a little bit older. I don't know if I want to really show this trailer, but here you can see a clear depiction of a anime office worker. She's wearing pantyhose, she's wearing a business suit. That definitely is not the Navy schoolgirl outfit that you would see in college/high school kids wearing, or at least as they're depicted in anime.
Your light will
Worth
cleave the
always
darkness.
mentioning that TechRaptor has a business relationship with Nutaku to promote them, and TechRaptor does seem to fairly frequently promote quite a lot of things that they have a vested interest in succeeding. Yeah, I'm watching the trailer, and it's a very nicely animated trailer. It doesn't look like it's just for a visual novel, although it may be. It totally might be. I'd say that there probably is a body type issue in this game, in the sense that all of the girls look like they're the exact same sizes, shape, hip, bust size, things like that. They all look pretty much the same. The only real difference is slight differences in the hairstyle and the face. And yeah, it does seem like it's probably a dating sim or something like that. I'm not really seeing any kind of mini game element or anything else. 3 damage to any target. Do we want to do this? Or do we want to do this?
I require servants. Your corpse will volunteer. Rise and shine.
Yeah. Guess I could fly and attack here. Probably wouldn't hurt me too bad to do that. Yep. That trailer really didn't show me much otherwise. It does seem to have like a room customization option, which is a slightly interesting idea, but not not groundbreaking, really.
Prepare for battle.
Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Grounded spiders will disappear. Grounded spider enemies will disappear for arachnophobes. I guess the name of the game is Grounded. Again, put that around quotation marks. Grounded is that game that we've seen just like a trailer of, where it's Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, which it's not a terrible thing. I vaguely recall hearing on Giant Bomb that somebody had been for years now seeing a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids style game. And so I wouldn't be surprised if that is that game finally coming out. Literally can't do anything here. I could do 3 damage to any target and gain 3 life. Which I guess would kill that guy. Yeah, honestly, I think though, if you have arachnophobia, a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids type game probably would also just have so many other insects and things that it would be silly to try and play that game if you have arachnophobia anyways. Moving on, TechRaptor has this article. Get the story bundle gaming books package and support doctors. This is a humble bundle thing, I guess. It seems like there's some books here, but I'm not sure any of them are particularly interesting or worth reading. I think it's storybundle.com/games. Apparently this isn't even a humble bundle thing. It's just its own separate bundle. Yeah, I think if you're reading about video games, you've probably lost the plot at a certain point. There's way too many video games to be reading about them. It's effectively too similar to what I do about anime these days, where I just have YouTubers tell me what they think about animes that I have no time or interest in ever watching, except for in the opposite direction, because watching a 5-minute video reviewing a TV series or even a movie takes way less time than watching a hours long movie or TV series, whereas reading a book about a video game could easily take you as long, if not longer, than actually playing the game. And one assumes that if you're reading a book about a video game, that you're probably doing that after you played the game, and that's supplemental information, which you probably don't need. And I am literally getting nowhere here. I may have to just end up wrapping up the stream, because I only have about maybe 25 more tabs, and trying to play this off screen, it just may have to really spend the time to build a whole new deck for Brawl. Moving on, TechCrafter has an article. Observer System Redux revealed for next-gen consoles. We had already gotten a bit of an announcement about that, but we still don't really know what it is. If it is supposed to be a guaranteed sequel or a remake. And it is from the people that made Layers of Fear, and my concern was the Observer, the original Observer, was still not enough of a game, considering how Layers of Fear was really just kind of a walking simulator. TechRaptor has an article. Amazon's MMO New World delayed to August. We probably already had this article. Some of these articles definitely feel like they were things we already had seen. Maybe that TechRaptor is just reporting on things that Gematsu had several days earlier. I assume Gematsu is a Japanese site, so I wouldn't be surprised if they start to slow down and don't really have any new news. We might very well, starting next week, see basically no new news for any new games. And that'll put me in a weird position where I'll have to actually just focus on playing the game. Playing Magic. See, here we can do that to amass. And then this guy has double strike. So if he has double strike, that doesn't mean when he blocks, though, he does double attacks, does it? About to find out. Nope, it does. It totally does. That is crazy. TechRaptor has an article here. New Minecraft Nether music arrives from the Celeste composer, which is interesting, I suppose. So 3 new bits of background song music from the Nether Waste, the Crimson Forest, and the Soul Sand Valleys and Basalt Deltas. It would be weird if the Celeste team, not the music composer, but people who actually programmed Celeste or made Celeste decided to do something with the Minecraft Mojang team, because I don't know what they really do there. Like, Mojang is trying to do their Diablo clone with Minecraft Dungeons, and that's not very far away from Minecraft Java or Minecraft Bedrock. Minecraft Story Mode would have really been the direction that they should go, and I wouldn't be surprised if they actually do pick up that and continue and make like a Story Mode Season 3, even though I don't think Season 2 particularly succeeded too well. But if they were going to make a Celeste 2 with the support of Mojang, I don't know what Mojang there adds to Celeste to make a sequel, and I don't know what Celeste's team would add to any kind of Minecraft game. They'd have to get together and decide to make something completely different for both companies and hope it succeeds, and I don't have a lot of faith that would happen. And that's all just complete speculation based on the composer working with them, which I imagine composers are fairly free to jump ship. They really don't have any kind of liberty to be loyal to one company, generally speaking. I'd assume that's the case. Next we have a game on Steam called Wonderlist Trans-Siberian, which looks like it is a text-based game with some either real-world photographs or simplistic, but maybe better than your average text-based background art. It's $2.99 discounted English only. Still a text-based game though, so there really isn't anything you can do with that. Deal 2 damage. Just go ahead and decline that. And attack. If I win this game, it's simply going to be a case of me getting lucky and really have nothing to do with the quality of my gameplay. Next we have a game on Steam called Iron Lights, which seems to be maybe a VR player versus player experience with no feet and no arms, just giant armor pieces and lightsabers. $19.99. English full audio, requires VR, of course. It's rated positively. Maybe there's something here of interest. Is it player versus player? Yeah, online PvP. Probably needs a lot more polish and a lot more variety, and you kind of do just run into the problem of having a too small of a player base. Draw 2 cards, lose his life. Come on. Think we can win here. All attack. TechCraft has an article here. Streets of Rage 4 release date on the eShop was a mistake. Beat 'em up fans were excited to see Streets of Rage 4 release date appear on the Nintendo eShop, but apparently it was a mistake. So that date has now been changed to 2020. I guess it still is coming to the Switch, for better or worse. You can also put it on your wish list on Steam, which would be more interesting to me. So I'm going to just put it on the fall list, not the wish list. There's a video I saw talking about a old Neptunia game that was just ported to the Switch. Has been ported to the Switch. And they were talking about how it ran particularly bad and looked particularly ugly. Which I wouldn't put that past Neptunia games for them not to be optimized for the Switch. I wouldn't put it past the Switch to have a decent number of games that just aren't optimized and don't play quite the way they should. But they were saying it was sometimes going well below 30 frames per second, and it was rather noticeable. Alright. By sheer luck, we are playing maybe against a bot or a Magic employee, and because of that, it's gonna let me win. Like, I'd be really hard pressed to somehow figure out how I'm gonna lose this, so we can be finally done with the brawls, which is basically all we've done this entire stream. Oh my goodness, somehow still 1 life, but I got him on the next draw, thank goodness. A lot of work for a card. For a land card. It's a core 20 card. That's a lot of work. And again, I don't know if Friday Night Magic Brawl, Historic Brawls, should be listed under the Arena Play modes. And I definitely don't feel like this should be under Arena Play modes. And that pretty much, we can kind of show off the new card that we have, the Scry card. It pretty much just puts us at playing standard rank and trying to win, and we just need to burn through the news and with any luck, this will be our last game. We have a game on Steam called Masks of Mists, which, if I was to guess, is a point-and-click adventure. No, not really a point-and-click, is it? It's a 3D adventure. This is polished enough to not just immediately be dismissed as a low-effort game, so I think it has to be on the fall list. It's $11.24. English, Russian, and Chinese. That is suspicious, but we'll wait for the fall list to tell us that it's garbage, I suppose. This should be enough to win, if I am careful enough. Tech Raptor has an article here. Bonfire streamlines turn-based combat. A gloomy RPG with innovative combat. It looks to me like it's mostly just a cell phone game. It doesn't seem to have any screenshots of any other screens other than the combat screen. Next, we have a game on Steam called Radio General, which looks like it's a tabletop strategy game with a kind of unique art style there. Not sure there really is enough of a game here to interest me, but I'll give it a chance. Put it on the fall list. $17.99 is pretty high. English full audio with a bunch of other language supports. Yeah, maybe there's something here that would be interesting enough in the way it's being displayed, but yeah, it's still a bit of a reach. And I guess I do have to kind of question. I forgot to activate this. I do have to question how many fans of military strategy games or military games in general there will be as the older generations kind of die out. Like I don't really suspect that there's going to be too many 20-year-olds in the next couple decades that are big into World War II reenactments. If anything, they're going to move to like Warhammer 40k and things like that. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Tim update adds ranked matchmaking and more. Tim is the online Pokemon clone, and unfortunately the fact that it's online only has consistently made it inaccessible to me. Otherwise I would have considered playing it. Attack with these two. Go ahead and sacrifice that. Bring that back. I'm playing this out of sequence, but it doesn't seem like it really matters because this guy seems to be doomed to not be able to play anything. Gamatsu has an article. Clonade for Switch limited print physical edition has been announced. So here I believe is the original artwork, and I believe this is the collector's edition artwork, which is just like a bigger box with probably an art book and the game and probably a musical thing. Clonade is in the top 3 visual novels out there, so it's definitely one. If you are only going to play one visual novel ever, Clonade very well may be the one to play. Alright, we'll just go ahead and attack. Couldn't have tapped that guy anyways. It'll be interesting to see how such a well-known and successful, even though it's been re-released on a lot of different platforms, it'll be interesting to see how that visual novel succeeds, both in the West and in the East, because if it succeeds very well, then we may see a lot more. If it doesn't really succeed that well, then we may not see very many visual novels going over to the Switch. We'll probably end up still seeing quite a lot. But I could see that sales number just being an element considered in the development of a lot of other visual novel games owners, whether they want to port their game to the Switch or not. Next we have this game on Steam called Procession to Calvary. Calvary being, I think, the hill Jesus Christ was sacrificed on, crucified on. Seems to me like it is a Monty Python-esque game, kind of like a point-and-click adventure game. I'm gonna put it on the follow list. I am a sucker for point-and-click adventure games, and I'm a little bit of a sucker for Monty Python. Although I will personally say I think probably 92% of all Monty Python skits are not funny by the time you've seen them the second time. And if that comedy is not done well, it will be just a pale imitation. I would say the same is kind of true for like Mr. Bean. Mr. Bean's probably funny if you're young enough and the first time you've seen him, but if you try to rewatch any of the episodes, you probably wouldn't be that interested in it. That's kind of the problem with foundational comedy in general, is that it's funny until your understanding of comedy and you've seen other kinds of comedies evolve, and once you've evolved to that next level of comedy, you want something a little bit more complicated, you want something different, you want something surprising, since comedy often is subverting expectations. You can't do that twice in a row. Once they've subverted your expectations then get readjusted. Check Raptor has an article here. I Fold Apart, a game based on folding paper, is coming April 17th. This doesn't look like a folding paper game to me, but let's look at this trailer. It doesn't really feel like you're folding paper here. It feels like something completely different. It may still be a good game, but that trailer certainly did not make me feel like you were folding paper or folding the levels even together. Yeah, and none of those screenshots really work towards that idea either. It'd be really hard to make a game where you're actually doing origami or folding things, and then there was a game on top of that, and that was just a gameplay mechanic. You could certainly make a game where you are literally just doing origami, certainly, but that would just be following steps, and that's about it. Do I want to attack now? I guess. TechRaptor has a Grand Blue Fantasy Versus review. From what I've heard, Grand Blue Fantasy is a pretty simplified, good entry-level fighting game. So I think I probably not only want this on my wish list, I think I probably want it at the top of my wish list as far as fighting games are concerned. If I'm going to get into fighting games, it's got a lot of selling points here. For a newbie, there's only like 11 characters. It's an a very nicely drawn anime art style with characters that seem to be new to the game, so there's not a lot of backstory. You can see TechRaptor gives it a 8.0. I say accessible for beginners and fun for veterans in the fighting genre, though the limited roster and lack of genre innovations are drawbacks. So, yeah, it probably should be the game I play. And if it's based on a mobile game, I have no idea in that case what Granblue games normally are. If they're fighting games or if they're something else. I'd assume that they probably aren't fantasy games. But yeah. It would still be a little hard to show a game like Granblue Fantasy Versus, because if the desire there is to kind of show off if the desire is to show off something like a specific move or a specific animation, there might be a lot of effort and grinding to pull off that move and show off that specific animation. Otherwise, it probably would be a game that maybe you go through a story mode if there's a story mode, but then after that, you probably don't do too much else. You could fighting games are too expensive, really, to just spotlight and do one video on a spotlight, and it really wouldn't be a good use of my money or anyone's time to spotlight a fighting game and just go, oh well, this feels good. I feel almost beholden to ensure that that I played the game quite a bit before I spotlighted a fighting game, if I was going to spotlight a fighting game, and that would be footage and time spent that nobody would see. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article, Resident Evil 3 review. I wish I'd stop saying before I start every sentence. From what I've heard, most people like this game but think it's too short. Yep. 7.0, there's no reinvention of the wheel, but Resident Evil 3 is a satisfactory survival horror game nonetheless, despite some wobbles and a sense of victory lap complacency. Resident Evil 3 has just enough intriguing moments to survive. And what's kind of sucky is that you kind of know Capcom won't lower the price tag on Resident Evil 3 anytime soon, if ever. So you're also going to run into a scenario where if you ever want to play Resident Evil 3, you're probably going to have to pay at least $40 for a game that would be better suited as a $20 game, and then you can buy Resistance if you want it. Otherwise you don't, for some extra $5 or $10. The pros for Resident Evil 3 from TechRaptor was more great Resident Evil gameplay, some truly unsettling moments, and looks incredible. The cons, but it's more of the same, less scary than Resident Evil 2, and it plays things too safe. So, yeah. Again, I said last time, if Resident Evil 3 turns out to be the bad Resident Evil that Capcom just has to get out of their system, I'm fairly certain it's Capcom that makes the Resident Evil series, that might not be a terrible thing if Resident Evil 8 turns out to be great. Now, on the other hand, if Resident Evil 8 turns out to be terrible also, then that would definitely suck. This get something on the field. Since he just did a board clear. Next we have a game called Ancient Enemy, which is seemingly almost like a westerns and demons card game. Player versus player. I don't know if this is the kind of card game I'd want to play. It looks like a deck building game, but I'm gonna give it a chance. It's $12.74 discounted, single player only, English only. Yep. We already talked about that, so we don't need to mention that again. TechRaptor has an article here. War Child UK replay Steam sale is live. Let's see what games are available. Dead Cells 20% discount, Psychonauts, Broken Age, Costume Quest, A Short Hike, Rivals of Aether, Wargrove, Time Spinner, Bubbles the Cat, Goner, and Eagle Island. See. Play that. And in turn, so yeah, here's the sale. Bad time for a sale. I'd like Dead Cells, it's on my wish list. Short Hike, I don't even have, so probably need to go through all these and double check what should be on my wish list and what shouldn't. Seems like there's some missing games here that might actually be in my wheelhouse. I have Broken Hat. I apparently own Psychonauts. Jeez, I guess I should play Psychonauts at some point. Man, I know Psychonauts 2 is highly unlikely to come out anytime soon, but it does make for something that I should consider and play. Alright, block that. Block 1. Here's that game, A Short Hike, and it was on the fall list. You can now see it's overwhelmingly positive, so we'll put it on the wish list. Single player, English full audio, $6.39. It doesn't look particularly attention grabbing, but people seem to like it. So I'm willing to check it out. This is just BS. If I had gotten Bolas Citadel at any point here, I could have won. But I didn't. So now we've got 11 guys that are about to attack us. We have a game on Steam here called Go-Kart Run. It doesn't look visually polished enough to be a go-kart game that I would assume is good. Like, even if this played really, really nicely, the visual polish is just too low. You can see it's mixed reviews already. It's free to play, single player with in-app purchases, which is also something you don't really want to see in a kart racing game. Gamma Sutra is retweeting out old articles again. We talked about that. Here we have a game on Steam called Blind Blade 2, which looks to me like it's a almost completely play as a blind character mobile game. It's probably a cheap Chinese game too. English is not supported. $1.69, Chinese only. Yep. Every game that's tried to have like a mechanic where you're blind has pretty much failed. I missed my turn, so I'm about to lose. And I could have saved myself one hit. I would have lost anyways. And that'll be that. So I'm just gonna have to play off screen. I thought about late last night playing some Magic since I was just sitting around doing nothing anyways. I didn't get around to it though. We have a game on Steam here called Space in the Beginning, which looks to me like it's nothing. Seems to be like a wild collection of different gameplay mechanics and probably an asset flip game. Free, English only, full audio. So, nothing there. Next, we have a game on Steam called Karma City Police, which looks to me like it is mostly a RPG Maker game. Early access, 64 cents discounted English. Yep. This may be a day in which we literally saw nothing of major interest coming out. And it's Friday, and we didn't see any major adult games come out this week either, so if we don't see it next Friday, we'll start to get a little worried. Although I've said that so many times and then been proven wrong, and it seems like Steam is fairly happy with their system of once every 2 weeks releasing adult games, or some adult games on their platform. Gamma Sutra has an article here. In3, or Network, spelled with a 3, aims to help devs tackle UA and growth with $50 million funds. UA would be user art? What does UA stand for? I don't know what UA even stands for. So obviously it's too inside baseball if I don't even know what the letters mean. Next, we have a game on Steam here called BH Trials, which looks like you play as a bulldozer and you're getting knocked around by hammers and things. If I was to guess, this is probably an asset flip joke game. It seems like you're pulling yourself forward and back using the buckets and the scoops of the bulldozers. Yeah, there might be something to this. I'll put it on the fall list. $15.83 discount. That is too expensive though. And a bunch of languages. Well, they just convinced me to not buy it by that price. That is way too expensive even as an initial offering. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Stadia will lower default settings to reduce internet strain during COVID-19. Seems like everybody is either demanding for this to happen or doing it as a way of virtue signaling, unless their platform actually is essential. Next, we have Balloons Monkey City, which is almost certainly a tower defense game. Balloons series, free to play, English, looks uninteresting. Yep. It doesn't look too much like a mobile port, I will give it that, even though I'm fairly certain it is a mobile port. Next, we have a game called Shadow Gangs, which looks like it is a beat 'em up game it kind of looks like a spiritual clone of Altered Beast, if anything. Yeah, $26.99 discounted, English and French. Man, again, that price just for what you're giving me, a 4x3 Altered Beast beat 'em up game with 6 bosses. That is just way too expensive. I'll put it on the fall list, but man, that is way, way too expensive. Let's see. Gamatsu has Divine Grimoire for PS4 pre-registration is now available in Japan. It's a unit summoning style fantasy RPG game, so it's probably a gacha game, if I was to guess. And this is the only artwork you have here. And then that leaves us with just a couple more tabs. And then we'll be done. Here we have a game called Game Dev Beatdown, which seems to be a satirical RPG of game developers maybe fighting each other. There might be something here. $11.69 English only. I'm way too generous on the fall list. Certainly. Alright, and then we have Famitsu School sales. Let's quickly look at this from Gamatsu. This would have been the first week of April. Numbers I imagine are going to be pretty low. Like Animal Crossing, pretty high, nearly 500,000 in Japan. Whereas number 2 is Resident Evil 3, which is less than 200,000. And then number 3 you have here is less than 20,000 for a one-piece game. So sales are incredibly, incredibly low. And I imagine for the next few weeks they will be just incredibly, incredibly low because of just social isolation and limitations here. Here you can see even the sales of Switches and Switch Lites are pretty low. It would be amazing if somehow the Xbox somehow became popular in Japan during this whole thing. And I could see Microsoft trying to get some brownie points by giving away free Xboxes to Japanese players with some pretty low stakes giveaways and having a lot of units available to sell, which they very possibly are a little short on those units too. But I doubt that would actually happen. If anything, Japanese players are going to be more into playing PC games. And that brings me to the Humble Bundle game bundles. We have something called Spring Clean Your Life, which is a books bundle. So is there a games bundle? Stardock Strategy is 11 days. And that's the only games bundle right now, except for the Humble Choice, which is its own separate thing. Okay, and so then that brings me to my Twitter feed, which I'm just going to reload instead of scrolling all the way to the top like an idiot. Let's see. An unimportant low effort game. Let's see. China blocks the sale of Animal Crossing New Horizons. Why would they do that right now other than just to be petty? I guess we'll talk about that more on Monday, but it really does seem like China is just being petty and ridiculous. Let's see. Here we have a article we'll talk about on Monday. Another Japanese game with an interesting art style coming to Switch and PC on April 23rd, later for the PS4 and Vita. Let's see. So some small bits of news have come out in between the time we streamed, and right now my chair is particularly uncomfortable, but I will give it give my chair some props and say, hey, I haven't been in major pain for the past hour. And maybe that has less to do with the chair and just my own personal body finally healing. Apparently, Pokemon Go remote raid details have been data mined. That's a TechRaptor article if you are interested in looking up that information. What else? Well, I guess that is it. Yeah. Apparently, Final Fantasy XIV Online might be affected by COVID-19. I'm not even going to click on that article because I don't care. But yeah, otherwise, that is it. There's 4 or 5 new bits of news that came out, and that was it. A pathetic number of victories today. I'll have to get a lot of victories done off screen to get more gold and more experience to get a few more cards before the time switches up on us. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and give me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.